I'm going to do a video today on how to cut half-inch copper tubing with a tube cutter. The job that I'm doing here is I'm going to cut into my hot and cold water supply lines here, and I'm going to put a T-type fitting off of those, and that'll supply water to a kitchen faucet I'm putting into another part of the house here. Our tube type cutter, this is it here. I'll show you how to use that in a second, and I'm going to discuss briefly some amazing new types of fittings that I discovered on my trip to the hardware store when I actually went to get a soldering iron. I discovered these, and they're kind of pricey, but for someone like myself who just has not acquired the skill of soldering copper and has tended to make a mess the times I've done it and had to redo it, they are going to be well worth the money. So here are some of these push fit fittings that I was talking about. They come in, there's a couple of different manufacturers of them. I'm not going to mention any names, but I'm sure you can find them if you have to. Like for instance, this one here, you can see it's got a brown type of connector there. This is a different manufacturer. When I went back for a second round to get some more of these things, got the red one there. There's a T-type connector. There's the ball valve, 90-degree elbows. I was amazed at the amount of fittings that they have. Taps. Stick that on the half-inch copper pipe there. This is the one I'll use to go off to the sink that I'm installing, and I'm just going to show you how these work in a second. I was pretty amazed at the whole thing. Now, as I say, they were here in Canada. They're pretty pricey. This one here, the ball valve one, I think that was $17. The elbows, I believe, were $7 to $8. This one was around $10. But as I was talking about, if it means the difference between getting a plumber and not having to get a plumber, and I know around here it's pretty difficult to schedule one and very expensive, it can be well worth the money. Other side of it here is that if you make a mistake with these things, you can just disconnect them, and I'll show you how they connect and disconnect here in a moment. So, before putting on the push type fitting, I measured, just mark from the end of your pipe 1 inch, according to the instructions for these ones that I have anyway. It should the fitting should go into the pipe about 1 inch. I'm a little off there. That's actually a little bit lower than 1 inch, but just kind of to give you an idea anyway. But just read the instructions. I don't know if that's a standard thing for all of these fittings or if it varies, but at any rate, it says right on the package. So this is slick. Just take your pipe. You can see inside of it there's a little moving plastic fitting in there, so make sure you put the fitting into the pipe like that. You can feel it when it seats, and just push the pipe into the fitting, and that is slick in my opinion. Now, I tried this in the hardware store with the guy when I was arguing with him well, not arguing, but debating, because I was amazed that such a thing would work, and I'm trying to pull that off now, and that is not coming. And in the hardware store, I actually had a long piece of pipe, and I really was coming onto it. Now, here's the really great thing about these things too. Say you hypothetically cut one the wrong size or something, this is all you need to get it off. And this thing costs, I think it was like less than $1 or something where I got it. Put that over the pipe, slide it up to the end, keep your hand over the end of the fitting, push that orange piece. That's pretty pretty slick in my opinion. So as I say, for a guy that doesn't want to get into a lot of soldering, and especially in an existing home where you might be in enclosed spaces trying to work with a soldering iron and copper and that kind of thing, that's a great way to do your connections. So now I'm at the part where basically I'm just going to drill the holes for my pipes using a hole saw. I actually made a video on how to use a hole saw if you need reference for that. There's another hole. To keep them in a straight line, what I do is I just put one end of the small piece of pipe I have here through one of the holes. Then I'll hold it out on the outside of the stud that I'm going to cut, lay it level. This is hard to get on the video properly here. Lay it level on top of the pipe, and then I'm just going to take a marker where my finger is there, and I'll mark the bottom of the hole once the level is level, right around there, and that'll be where I want the bottom of that hole in order to line up with that hole. So an update of where I'm at with this job. I basically am running it all in rough here. I got my, you can see my 90-degree elbows running these connections here. I got them up. This one here keeps falling down. What I'm getting ready to do is get to a point where I can cut my hot and cold water supply line, and then I'm going to connect, say, this line here to this supply line here. Not this one here, which I was originally thinking of, but it's so close that I would end up with just a really small little piece of copper pipe. I don't like that idea. I'd like to have a longer piece, so I'm going to run this elbow here over to this pipe, and the other one on the opposite side. So I got them run in. This is what they look like when they're in. There's our ball valves there, and that's what I basically want to get done. I want that connected to the house supply, because I have another apartment upstairs here and I don't want to kill the water to the tenants for too long. So I'm going to get everything ready, cut a couple of small pieces to join here, then I'll do a shot after I kill the water, connect these up, and we'll see how it turned out. Okay, so I'm lining up everything for when I cut into this water supply line. So as you can see, I got my elbow here coming to my new piping. There's my T connector. I just put it on there temporarily so I can get an idea where it's going to go. Now, as we know, the end of the pipe here is going to go approximately an inch into that push fitting there. So, allowing for this being the bottom of the T fitting, it's going to go about that far into it. So I'm going to mark that right around there, and that's where I'm going to cut this pipe, put the T fitting down into it, and then the top of the supply line then into the other end of the fitting there. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but just to the point of why I'm so impressed with these push-on fittings for the do-it-yourself type guy like myself. I ran these water lines down low here to get around all this involved piping here, so I didn't have a whole lot of choice as to where to run them, and I figured that'd be fine. Anyways, get over here to the corner. I'm going to run them along this wall. I'm going to put a studs in along here, along the wall. Then I realized that I figured they were coming in at a good height, but as it is, when I put my 2x4 stud along the bottom here, that's going to be running right at the bottom. I'd have to run holes right at the very bottom of each stud, but I don't like doing that because that doesn't leave any kind of room for error. I want those holes that I drilled to be up farther from the bottom of the stud. But anyway, that's not a problem. I'll just release these, cut these pipes a little higher up. I got my drain pipe coming up in there, like I say, good and high from the bottom, so I can just drill holes in the studs as I go along this wall. So it's that easy. Use a little release tool, I got them off, cut these pipes to a different length, put them up higher on the wall. Okay, we're getting close to the actual critical point here. I've got my push-on fittings all lined up here. This one is got an elbow here, goes over to a T. I've tie wrapped it to the pipe. Then I'm going to cut into. This one here is also angled over. I got the pipe marked. I did a little, basically held my my T joint into place there to get an idea where to cut it. So I'm going to kill the water supply to the house. Go turn on some taps after I've turned off the water supply. Make sure that the pipes have drained as much as I can. Then I'll turn those taps on. I just tend to turn on all the water to let everything drain as much as possible. So there's the lines we were talking about earlier in the video, run over. This is where they're going to go down around this wall over to that kitchen sink. Just as a sideline here, you can see where my push fittings are here. Then they're going through this stud. You're going to run into things, do-it-yourself guy. If you're just starting on this, don't be too hard on yourself if you make some mistakes. It's hard to plan all this ahead. This 2x4 here, I had originally cut it. I think this is the 2x4. Yeah, this is the one here. You can see where I cut this all out, drilled the holes for the copper pipes. Afterwards I realized, well, if I do that, I'm not actually going to have access to release these pipes to put in the ones of the proper length. So instead of having those holes drilled, I cut out an area so we can get our little tool, that little orange tool I had before for releasing the connections and pushing them in there. Anyway, you're going to run into stuff like that, so it's all part of the process. But in the scheme of things, it's just part of doing these projects yourself. Anyway, I'm going to go kill the water and cut into those pipes, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so this is the end of the video on using the press fittings for plumbing. I'm all done now. I've cut into the supply lines, the hot and the cold supply lines over here, like I discussed at one part of the video. That was a little bit of a production. What I did was I killed the water supply to the house, and I turned on the taps to release any water pressure that's in the system. So you're going to want to do that if you're cutting into a supply line like this. One thing I forgot to do, I turned on the hot and the cold water to release the water pressure on the house, but I didn't actually cut the water from the hot water heater. And as I cut into this pipe, you can see where this T fittings are here. As I cut into the one from the hot water, I had a continuous flow of water. I couldn't stop in the middle of it because I was obviously doing the job, but I had to do a cleanup here afterwards. So make sure you turn off the valve to your hot water heater. But anyway, it's all done. I'm thoroughly impressed with these fittings, and I swear I do not sell these things, but I'm amazed. The water is all turned on, the pressure is on these. This house is on a well, and it's got an actual higher pressure than is normally on a residential system, 50 psi on this. So we have our two T's, we got two elbows here, two elbows down here, two ball valves, two elbows over here, and none of them have any leaks. So I'll just show you here. The water's back on. So here's where we cut into our hot and cold supply. These are the pipes here with our fittings on them, going over to our ball valves. And this is where I'm going to go along and finish my reno that I'm doing here. So I'm just going to turn on one of these ball valves here. Both of them. You can just see that there actually is water. There's one of them. I'll turn off that ball valve. Water should come into the other pipe. There it is. You can see lots of pressure. And these fittings seem to be holding quite nicely. So I'll update the video. If you're thinking about trying these, look for comments on the bottom of the video, because over time, if I have any problems with them, I will update the comments.